Welcome to Groseal's Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission. The time is 7:38. I call this meeting to order and ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Say welcome to anyone watching us on TV, as well as welcome to members of the audience. See, we have Carl, we have Jane, we have Nicole. Ginny is sick. Steve has a work function. John was not able. He's stuck in traffic. Hopefully, he can come up here. Dan's here. I'm here, and I'm not sure about Alan. Hopefully, he'll join us shortly. So before you have the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Yes, I'd like to add the open space liaison to it.
Great. Do you care to where you would like to put that?
We could, wherever you feel. I'm good with it.
Do you have an extra agenda there?
Put it right after open public comment.
Sounds good.
There should be agendas around, probably around Carl, so hopefully it can work its way down.
Share this. Can you share one? Yeah. Yeah.
Are they over here, maybe?
Right. I got one. Do you got one?
I do have one. Maybe they're up by the kiosk as well.
Carl and Nicole have one to share.
Okay. So any other additions or deletions? Jane?
I'd like to add another one about
Yes.
Druggle, update about the Druggle.
Okay.
Would you like to add that too, Jan? Towards the end?
Yeah, we can.
Bicycle?
Whatever.
That right after 6.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, I've passed out a copy of the minutes. I apologize that I don't have the correct spelling of some of the last people that showed up. They just have their initials. The meeting, I thought, went really well. Take a peek at them and let me know what you think.
Is Rebecca Joan really Rebecca Cohn?
Did I do it again?
I think so. Unless there's another Rebecca.
Boy, I have a hard time with your last name.
Not her. Not her.
All right.
I guess with the names, if anybody else wrote them down, we can verify. We want to make sure that we record everyone that was in attendance at our last meeting. Other than that, I'll just say that I think that you captured a summary of the meeting very well, Dan. So thank
It
you.
was pretty hard to do. There was a lot of opinions, and they were all worth listening to, in my opinion. Can we have a vote on them?
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes
With the correction.
with any corrections that people find as far as names, such as Rebecca Kong. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion passes. Good job, Dan.
Thanks.
Next, we have open public comment. We do have a member of the public here. Rebecca, I'm not sure if there's anything that you'd like to say that's not specifically on the agenda, but you're welcome to if you...
I don't have an agenda, but
Bike to School Day is on number 4, and you will have lots of the floor if you're into it.
Okay. Well, if anyone joins us later on, we'll be happy to reopen public comment, but at this time, we'll close it. Next item on the agenda is maintenance plans. So if you recall, not this past month, but the month before that, in March, we had Wes Pfeiffer come in and specifically talk about maintenance plans for the bridges, specifically looking at the staining of 2 of the bridges, Thoroughfare as well as Grow Road. But the Meridian Bridge needed extensive work with the deck as well as some of the joists underneath. So he gave us a range cost, and I believe the upper limit was about $103,000. And that is a contingency in case for some reason we had to like completely redo the bridge. So that being said, within our minutes from the past time, we had the specific numbers, and I'm forgetting them off the top of my head. But 103 was the maximum amount that included everything. So, yeah, thank you, Dan. So we have to sustain all three bridges, it would cost about $28,000. Is 10% more than past years. We do bridge staining every 2 years. So this isn't a cost that happens every single year, but roughly we have to budget $15,000 a year for the staining. There's $3,000 to $6,000 for wood damage to the two bridges, as well as for the Meridian Bridge, he expects about $40,000, but total replacement would be $75,000. So that's where we got the potential of a maximum of $103,000 in order to do all three bridges and make sure that they're ready to go. So before he can go forward, this board would need to make a recommendation, since especially it's a large amount of money, that we consent to this, and that way I will be able to let our township manager Dale Ream know about it, and that way he can authorize West Pfeiffer to begin when his schedule allows. So with that being said, I'm going to say, did anyone have any questions or comments or reservations about this maintenance? Is there any reason why we should put off this vote as opposed to discuss it more further and potentially make that vote tonight? Yes, Carl.
Brian, I'd like everybody to know that's watching, the reason this is so expensive in large part is because it's built to MDOT specifications. That bridge, if you were purely a bicyclist, would look to be severely overbuilt, but because of the funding, the grant work, we're required to adhere to certain standards, and that includes the MDOT specifications. So not our idea, but we have to follow through with their requirements, and that's why we're spending that kind of money on that bridge, or bridges.
Gotcha.
I also have a comment. When Wes was here, I don't know if it's in the minutes or not, he said that bridge was just under 30 years old, so I think it's beyond its life expectancy.
What we're hoping is that it would just be, he needs to pull up the deck in order to address the joists.
Yes.
So he's hoping that it would just be the joists, and then since you've pulled up the deck already, you should redo that deck. It doesn't make sense to put down old boards, but we're hoping that we'll get away with that as opposed to having to redo the whole thing. Nicole, I know that you had your hand raised, so.
Thanks. Just wondering for a little perspective on the budget, is how big is this amount? In other words, are we going to be able to plow our sidewalks as usual? Does it keep us from doing any of the normal things?
It should not. I can set. I believe I sent it to you via email, but I can send it again. We have approximately $250,000 or so in reserve from last year's, and we accrue approximately $92,000 per year in additional funds. So we have over $300,000 to be able to take care of all the needs, and I've been working with Ann as well as CE Rains and West Pfeiffer to look at these issues and make sure that we will be able to do all of the preventative maintenance, or I should say just general maintenance, like like path sweeping, snow removal, clearing of branches that fall down on the pathway. That type of stuff costs generally about $40,000 per year. And then we do have additional funds that can be used for capital preventative maintenance, which is like seal coating and crack sealing. And then we have additional funds that we can use in order to do the more pathway restorations. So that's unfortunately, $92,000 doesn't go that far, so it might take a while in order to see a lot of the paths restored. But especially because I'm guessing that we'll probably be putting in about $25,000 per year into pathway restoration. But to answer your question, we will have reserves still, and we will be able to do our routine maintenance as well as be able to work on the asphalt for the pathway.
Thank you.
We have a member of the public here. Would you care to introduce yourself or say anything? Sure. Yeah, feel free to come on up.
Wes Pfeiffer, 23477 West River Road, construction. I just stopped in just to make sure there was any questions. I'll make myself available for any answers. Quick note, one of the things that was raised at the 2 meetings ago was synthetic or like a Trex deck or something along those lines. And as we discussed, a 1.25 inch deck that you see for Trex, that's a residential thing. It really is not their application on these bridges. It's too much traffic. It's a wonderful problem. I did price out for my supplier a 2x6 composite board. I believe I gave you guys a price of roughly $60 for that board. I hate to say it, but I was pretty accurate. It's about the cost of the board to do it. So I haven't really give you almost 40%, 50% increase in the cost of just that board material. That way. And then along those lines, that one bridge then will cost more to maintain the staining on the handrail because it will all have to be tarred and protected. Whereas right now, I can, now we're going to go overspray on the handrail on the deck boards.
Clean it up and smooth it out as we do the decks. So it works out good. And so that's it. If there's no questions, I'll be happy to sit back down.
Question,
Yes.
Wes, what would life expectancy be with these composite boards compared to the ones that you're proposing that we use?
Composite boards, they say that they have a 25-year life on the things. They,
Got almost 28 years out of the ones that you have now.
yeah, well, on some of them, yes.
I mean, so does it justify the cost increase?
I don't believe it does.
That's what I was after. That's what
Yeah, I
wanted
don't
you to
believe it
say.
does. The cost of staining the deck and the rails on this 2-year rotating cycle where we do the decks every 2 years and the handrail every 4 years, you can do a lot of staining for the price of that synthetic wood.
What do you estimate the increase in the staining cost would be on with the rails, handrails?
Or if we did the rails, if there was synthetic wood down and we just had to stain the rails, I would probably say you have about a 20% increase in the labor costs of doing the rails. And I believe on the staining maintenance quotes, there's a breakdown of power washing decks and staining and power washing rails and staining. And so that 20% only would be on obviously the rails on that one bridge.
So what I'm hearing from you is you don't recommend going to the composite boards.
I'm not a big fan of it, sir.
I have one other question. So as I was discussing before, we're hoping that you pull up the boards, address the supports underneath, and then we'll be able to put the deck, put on the new deck boards and call it good.
That is our game plan, to remove the deck boards, remove the joists, which are compromised on the top half. The nails are going to start coming loose. From the inspections that we've had so far, the cross member, which I believe is a 6x6 or a 6x8 going across, is sound, and so are the vertical posts. But this bridge was designed back then, and it was good foresight. It is very modular, where we do not have to touch the handrails to replace the joists in the deck. So we'll just be going through, removing it, and putting it back together. So it'll be a somewhat of a quick and pain-free job as far as the community being down. Right? It's not like it's a total dismantle and has to come back together. Now, if we do find a cross member that is compromised, again, it's 6 boats, 8 boats. We back them out, cut a new member, put it in, and we're right back in business again.
Who had the forethought of the design of that bridge? I mean, that's amazing. I thought you'd have to take the handrails off to...
Nope. That was a predominantly Sohio. We had a little bit of input in it, but I like Sohio, and I like to keep doing his work, so Sohio gets all the credit for that.
He's a good pat on the back for that design.
Just to let you know, I was talking with Richard McCarthy, and he's like, he didn't know you personally, but he's like, I've heard really good things about West Pfeiffer.
So that's good.
So
I'm glad to hear that.
it goes both ways on that. But the reason why I was asking about that, so we're assuming that it'd be about $40,000.
Yes, I looked at the numbers just earlier this week because I knew this was coming up again this month. And as it stands right now, I see that as being a good number. The only thing that will change is if we do find additional problem wood, and that would increase slightly. But on a positive note, the township is also looking at doing the observation deck this year. And with that, we might be able to combine the lumber order and get a little better price, or more importantly, might get a little better quality of wood. Be able to maintain the price, but get a better grade. And that would be the biggest thing. It's, the nicer grade we have, the less knots are in it, the longer it will hold up.
Wes, were you involved in the repairs to the observation deck at Macomb and East River recently?
What year?
But I'm wondering how often we've had to...
It was 2 years ago, I believe. The very first 10 or 12 feet, I don't remember the exact length, had to be removed. The steel I-beams were gone from the salt from the road over the years. So we put in new I-beams going from the road to the first set of pilings, and redecked that. We salvaged the handrail and put it back on. It's kind of spliced together if you look closely as you go onto it. That was done because the game plan at the time was the following year we was going to redo the observation deck, and it's been a year or two since that repair has been done. But the rest of the steel looks sound out there. And that was from the inspection a couple years ago. And so we're looking to remove the deck, prep the steel, paint the steel, and then redeck it with the same details that was on there originally.
When you look at the steel, is there anything other than just painting you can use as a protective from against the salt?
We have a two-part epoxy paint that we're putting on. We're just not putting a couple coats of Rust-Oleum on it. It's a two-part epoxy that's going down that will give us some protection. What's really amazing and stuff is that the steel was primed 29 years ago, but never painted. Know anything about primer? Primer attracts moisture. It's not good. It's better to just leave bare steel than to put a primer on it and walk away.
I'm assuming you weren't involved in that?
I was the original construction of that, but the pilings were done by another contractor. And
that wasn't Ohio, was it?
No.
No.
No. Don't want to speak bad of the man that's passing. It was Zap Marine, but he has passed away now. But yeah, it's That's what it was. The observation deck never received any of the treatment like the bike path bridges did. What I mean by that is they never were. It was never power wash. There was never a sealer or stain ever put on that for its entire life. I think at the very end, someone went out to try to put something down, but at that point, the weather had checked the wood so badly that it wasn't going to. He wasn't going to be able to save it.
Talking about the observation deck, just a quick comment or question is, I was wondering, is that type of design potentially expandable? So it's like you could actually increase the size of the observation deck. I'm just wondering from a DDA standpoint, if something to attract more people, like, hey, maybe a restaurant could actually use that for outdoor seating and be able to have people dining like really like on the Detroit River. And so I was just curious as far as like, oh yeah, it's something that you can cantilever off and like expand it out, or you really got to basically build a whole new.
From a commercial standpoint, I would be very leery about cantilevering any type of distance off of that. Mm-hmm. You could drop in some new pilings and you could add to it that way. You could bring a stair down and do a brick paver or a deck down at the water's edge type scenario. But as is, this really can't be expanded with the existing foundation footprint.
Gotcha. Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Wes.
So I just back to our bridge over here on Meridian. So $40,000 is what we expect. But if for the worst came to worse, the cost to replace the bridge would be about $75,000.
That's correct.
So what I was wondering is there any decisions that need to take place if, say, worse does come to worse and we need to figure out what type of bridge to like replace it with, or is there any decisions that be made that it would make more sense for us to authorize the lower amount, and an approximate amount, as opposed to authorizing the large amount?
Well, I think it would be prudent at this point to authorize the smaller amount, the $40,000, to do the scope of work that we anticipate that needs to be done. Okay. When I came down a couple of days ago, I noticed that it looks like one of the foundation verticals is a little high. It looks like the railing does a little wave to it. A couple of years ago, we had to replace a vertical post because it had lifted. And it was lifted, and it's been lifted for a year or so. It did not settle back down. So we replaced that post. Again, because it's of the design of it, we just had to block the cross member, unbolt the vertical post, put in kind of one of the proper size, level the deck, and rebolt it. And it was a very inexpensive maintenance item versus having to tear out a concrete foundation, etc., to repair something like this. So this design is pretty slick. It really is.
Are there questions or comments for Wes?
To get back to the observation deck for just a brief moment, what is the vertical drop from the deck to the river? Do you recall? About 18, 20 feet?
I think it's probably close to 20.
Okay.
But I do not recall for sure. That was the first commercial job I did on the island. And near and dear to my heart, but I spent a lot of water since that time.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Wes.
Is there any other discussion in regards to the bridge maintenance?
None for me. Let's go to the open space.
So if there's no other discussion, I'd like to propose that we approve the amount of, it'll be $40,000 plus $28,000, so $68,000 for bridge staining and the Meridian Bridge deck and joist work.
So did you motion it?
I'm making it over here. I'm open to friendly amendments or anything as far as expanding upon it or talking about it a little more detail before.
Is that bridge repair or bridge replacement?
That would be bridge repair.
That's what I thought.
And would you read it back to us?
Okay, what I've got is $68,000 for bridge staining and the Meridian Bridge repair. Is that what you stated, or did I miss something?
I don't think we need to specifically mention that it's the decking and joist. The point
I'll
is that
put
it's
that in there,
repair.
repair decking and joist. Let's be specific. Joist. Ready for a motion?
Any other discussions? I guess we need a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion passes. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Wes, for coming out.
Thank you, Wes.
Greatly appreciate you making the time to come talk to us again about this.
Time frame wise, guys, are we still okay with the,
Sorry.
Time frame wise, we talked about as soon as school was out, we could start this project. Is that time frame still good with you guys, or is there something coming up that I'm not aware of?
Well, we do have the school that's out the end of the second week of June.
Right.
And our next board meeting is about the same time, and I'd like to have that run by the board.
Oh, okay.
So then they can approve it and...
As well, okay.
Yeah, just be on the safe side,
Yeah.
so everybody's on the same page.
Okay.
But that is the second Monday of the month, which is just before the school gets out. So
Okay.
to answer your question, those are the logistics that we have to go through.
The reason I was looking at that type of time frame is that this is a heavily shaded area, which is good and bad. I think that's one reason why this deck held up as well as it has. But it also will take longer for the wood to dry.
You talked about that 2 meetings ago.
Right, and so to get the proper time frame to give this wood a chance to cure, to dry out on site before we put the stain down, I like to try to get as much of the 6 to 8 weeks I can, so I can get it, get that done right towards the end of summer before school starts back up, if possible. Because over the years, I realized just how much these bridges are used, and people love them, but they get very upset when they're closed too long.
I have one question for you. You mentioned about joining together the observation decking purchase along with the decking for the
Right.
Meridian. Is it possible you could have some numbers what the cost savings might be to give to Carl to take to the board at the June meeting?
Yeah,
So they could say, okay, if we combine both of them, we can increase our quality and we can get a better price, or if we do them separately, this is what we're going to get. A double scenario, if you could.
It might be possible to get that done. I'll see what I can do with the things. I'm waiting for the final decision on the observation deck to come out of administration. Because I guess that's handled, directly from the township administration. It's not DDA, it's not you guys, it's directly there.
So remind me again how long you think that the Meridian Bridge will be down for repairs?
We're going to be down probably 15 to 20 days.
Days, it might be good for us to look at, is there some sort of detour that we can do for the bridge traffic in that case, as far as, again, crossing over at Hawthorne Glen or something in the meantime, just because I anticipate that people are still going to be making that movement. We just have to try and figure out what people are potentially going to do and what we would promote them doing as opposed to what they might want to do otherwise. So let's try and think about that in the meantime. But
Yeah, in the past, we've moved them over to the school, and they came up that way and then came back through a private driveway and back onto the path.
Yeah, I think the sidewalk ends
At Hawthorne.
at Hawthorne.
Right. And there's a private drive right across the street.
Yes.
Correct. My concern on it, again, respecting private drive and private property, my concern, however, would be more to have Chief Warnick or Lieutenant Pelland involved so that they can assess it, contact Wayne County if necessary, or put the proper cones and signage out there. Just trying to protect everybody that uses it, bike, pedestrian, whatever.
Right.
So that is kind of busy, and people turning left out of Manchester or coming right out of Hawthorne, that would be an unfamiliar traffic pattern, and I am very concerned about pedestrians and bicyclists being involved in something new where you have an old traffic pattern we're all used to, and then suddenly we have a temporary, it is an accident waiting for a place to happen. So I'd encourage you to talk to the police department.
Most definitely.
It's a very good point. Jane, you see it coming out of Hawthorne also.
At this time is not going to be like in the past years when we was doing repairs and replacing deck boards where I could secure the walkway, it wasn't gaping holes. This time there's going to be major sections of deck missing at different points of time, and that's just the way it is, the way it's put together. I can't.
Carl, maybe we meet with the chief or give him a call and just see what he's thinking about, and maybe we can find a situation, a good win-win situation for a detour.
Or maybe, Wes, you could give the chief a call and just say, hey, I want to sit down with you.
I'd be
give you
happy
some
to.
Proposed
Be happy to.
time frames. It'll certainly be easier not to negate the traffic coming from the south. But if you can have a moment or two with Chief Warnick, he has been out there directing and working with traffic and
Right.
bicyclists going to school recently, so he's very familiar with that. And usually out there around 8 o'clock in the morning, something like that. I don't know what your schedule's like, but if you see him there, pull over and say, hey, Chief, here's what's coming down the pike,
Right.
and you're both there, it might be an excellent opportunity for you two to walk that. And Mark is very, very approachable.
Oh, I do know Mark.
He's just very easy to work with. And if you approach him and say, look, here's what's going to be going on, a heads up, what do you want me to do, or what can we do to work together to make this a safe event?
Yeah,
So if you would follow up with Mark directly on that,
Be happy to.
Chief would be easy to work with.
be happy to.
I saw him cooking hot dogs tonight at the police open house, so he might like something that's less grilling. And but to speak with you, I think, would be a very easy way to go with that.
Yeah, and we have a pretty good idea of what we've done in the past and how much traffic we actually have throughout there, and the time of the day that we have it.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because otherwise, if we don't have people cross, I'm guessing that they're probably going to be riding along the shoulder. And if they're coming from the north heading south, they're going to be on the wrong side of the road, and that's a safety concern from that standpoint.
Right.
Too,
Well,
so.
the south side of the bridge has a beautiful crossing area all set up already. So that part of it is pretty easy. It's the north end and making the transition to come back to the path. Because once you get to Hawthorne Glen, as we all just discussed, there is no further avenue to go.
Good.
Okay?
Thank you, Wes.
Yep.
Great. Moving on, next item on the agenda is Bike to School Day. So,
Open space.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. Open space.
Or Parkway Connector.
Open space was added to the agenda, so we should talk about that.
All set?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, Saturday we had a great event at the DPW yard. It was called Dump Your Junk. We had 14 30-yard containers filled with treasures. We had a record of 508 vehicles come onto the property with their treasures they no longer wanted. That didn't include the treasure hunters who walked in and carried stuff out, or those who came in, picked out their treasures, and drove in to pick them up. It was a very successful day. We had over 20 volunteers. Most of them stayed most of the day. I'd like to say thank you to all of them. I've sent an email out to them, and I just publicly would like to thank them. I'd also like to thank Kroger from Macomb Street, who donated the sodas, the water, and the ice for the volunteers, and not to mention Hungry Howie's, who gave us pizzas for the volunteers also. So it was an outstanding day, and everybody that participated, I'm sure, had a great time. That's about it.
Brian, if I might add to that, I have worked with Open Space Greenways and several of the Dump the Junks. This is the first time that Dan has come on board, been a member of the commission for about a month, and was involved in organizing this. And I have never seen a better Dump the Junk project run as well as he did. Woody did a great job, but Dan had the volunteers, had great weather. I think God was smiling on you that day, Dan. But he put together a program that ran very, very well. And when you look at 508 people coming through, they're either dumping off stuff for the containers or some of the treasures, as they're known as, or picking stuff up. Over the course of 7 hours, you had a steady flow of traffic, people coming all the time. The volunteers were handling it. And Dan, you just did a tremendous job. We can talk about volunteers, we can talk about the public, but it requires organization, and that was the best organized Dump the Junk program I have ever seen. It was good. You had some big shoes to fill with Woody Clark passing the baton, and I think you did very well. So on behalf of the department and certainly the commissions and the township as a whole, I just want to say thank you and recognize the work you did. It was great.
Thank you, Carol.
Should we clap?
What's that? Oh, yeah. Why not?
Now I'm embarrassed.
Is there anything else from open space report? I was wondering if there's anything from the former ferry trail. I know we have the new...
Carl can speak to that.
Yeah, in a word, we expect to close on that now in about 2.5 weeks, close on the purchase of the property. Thomas Sorty, the township's attorney, is working on setting up a closing, and as soon as that is transferred, title is transferred to the township, then we are looking to follow through on the TNT bid award and start putting down the wood chips and establishing a trail that will run from Gage and reconnect to Ferry Road. That being said, the 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks is just the beginning, because right now there's a lot of water out there. I have walked that property, and there can be water in places that's 14, 16 inches deep. Add a couple of inches of mud below that, and pretty soon you feel like you're trapped in a marsh. There can be a lot of water back there. We anticipate with TNT having that project completed by, I'm going to guess, Labor Day, but that's just my personal guess. But that'll be a nice replacement for the trail that previously ran much closer to the canal, and we hope to have that open by Labor Day, if not sooner.
Thank you for the report. Next up, and I apologize, I had mentioned Bike to School Day, but technically it is Parkway Connector update. So I'll just be brief on that and say that last month we held a resident public meeting to talk about the different alternatives as far as connecting our bike path on Meridian to the Grozio Free Bridge. And then, as part of a concerted effort, working with Trenton and the International Wildlife Refuge, Wayne County Parks and Recreation, Economic Development, the Downriver Link Greenways, potentially DTE, and others, we're hoping to, have a connection from the Free Bridge to Jefferson. So the thought is that, Groseal will be linked to Trenton, and will be have a greater connection and be a greater part of the Downriver Link Greenways and the Iron Bell Trail. So residents will have access to all of the regional assets, including Elizabeth Park and the Wildlife Refuge and the Downriver Link Greenways and the I-275 Metro Trail, potentially, going north, connecting into the Detroit Greenways and the Gordie Howe Bridge, and being able to get over into Canada. So it is a very, I would say, if once complete, it will provide a lot of value to residents in being able to walk or bike, off the island if they want to, as well as being, allowing visitors to come in and experience Groseal, experience the nature, frequent our downtown area and our shops, and then potentially want to, buy a house here. So it potentially raises our property values as well. So based on that, our first step was looking at the connection between the Meridian and the Free Bridge. So we looked at several different alternatives of routes, including bike paths, wide paved shoulders, bike lanes, on 3 roads, Groseal Parkway, Douglas, as well as Bellevue. Based on resident input, we are not pursuing anything on Douglas, and we're very likely not pursuing anything on the north side of Groseal Parkway. Still be looking at something potentially on the south side of Groseal Parkway. We're preferring not to do bike lanes or wide paved shoulders on Groseal Parkway because of the traffic, because of the way the right-of-way comes in. So we're looking at the path potentially on the south side, or looking at Bellevue Road, and there's several different alternatives that we're pursuing on that front. So stay tuned. We'll have hopefully more to talk about that. Additionally, we'll be meeting with the Downriver Link Greenways to discuss how that recent funding of, I believe $1.5 million was donated from the Ralph Wilson Foundation into the Downriver Link Greenways in Wayne County to do comprehensive planning and linking up the Downriver Link Greenways to Detroit and to the Hines Drive bikeway that, bisects the rest of Wayne County and goes out towards the I-275 Metro Trail on the north end. So we're hoping that, we might be able to be a partner in that effort as well. Is there anything else anybody else would like to mention as far as the Parkway Connector meeting that we held last month?
I'd like to thank all the residents who took time out of their busy schedule and evening to came and voice their opinions and thoughts. And that's, to me, was very important, that we're representing them. And it was good to hear what their thoughts and, comments were.
Yeah, on that note, thank you that they didn't throw any fruit or
vegetables at us,
or any shoes at me. I was very happy that it was a very civil discussion, and
I thought it was great.
People were very, happy to talk about it, and it was just good, friendly time.
I agree.
Anyone else?
Do you want to mention about Bellevue, the idea that they're thinking, or like?
It's still in preliminary stages, so we have different alternatives to pursue. So with that, we'll move on to Bike to School Day. So I know Rebecca is here. She's done a lot of great work. I know Nicole has also put a lot of effort into this, so I'm hoping between the two of them they can give us a debrief on our successful Bike to School Day event.
You want to go first, Rebecca?
I don't remember any of my numbers, but are we on? Yeah. But I thought it went awesome. What was it, 106? Do you remember?
160.
160, so what I said, 160 counted at Park Lane. I didn't get any numbers for Meridian, but hopefully those are there somewhere, just haven't made their way to me. Because Meridian is often even more than Park Lane.
Pictures were awesome.
And pictures, lots of bikes.
Yeah.
Lots of bikes filled in with Park Lane, lots of parents take the kids' bikes home after they deliver them. But I think Meridian, there were lots of them biking home in the afternoon as well.
Well, the weather agreed too.
Weather was lovely. That was an iffy up until the day. We had lots of great support from the principals and the schools and the police. And I think everyone had a great time.
Thank you for all of your help. We greatly
Was it-
appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Rebecca.
Thank you, guys.
Rebecca really coordinated everything for the elementary, so if we want to clap for somebody else, we could clap for her.
Great job.
I was able to help a little at the middle school, and I don't know if we would want to do that in the future or not. I had a cooler of some fruit and drinks a little away from my car, so it's not like the kids are coming to some stranger's car. Everything labeled really well. Talked to the principal in advance, but there were 2 kids, one by himself, one with a parent. And Bike to School, even on the web, when you look at their materials, it seems to be very aimed at elementary kids. So do we want to stay away from the middle school just because it's not really aimed that way and maybe we can't do a quality job, or do we want to make it bigger? And I think it's a matter of what does the community want. Rebecca's got an
And
idea.
I think that brings up the whole, do I want to push for a one-way closure on East River for the biking month would be where I would aim for, I think, because closing it for a day seems difficult. A lot of effort for a day.
Carol, would we have to get Wayne County involved in that?
Yes.
I would think that would be an awesome idea. To let the kids ride their bikes to school for the month of
The
May.
month of May.
And just since we're on camera or the record or whatever, in case it's not obvious to everybody, because it wasn't to me until we started talking about it in this committee, it's very hard to get to the middle school on a bike safely. The best way seems to be to take sidewalks and such safely to the high school and then take a back trail behind it. I did see 5 kids who walked in that way too, but to come up along the street, there seems to be no safe way to do it.
There isn't, yeah. And even biking along Ferry and trying to avoid, Ferry is not a
Ferry's
safe
too
road to
narrow.
bike along either. So you have to
That's my
basically
opinion. I
go
think
through
Fairway's
the high
too
school.
narrow, too dangerous. I put that in the same category as I'd put church.
So if I wanted to start pursuing the options for an East River one-way, who would be the first discussion with that?
I would recommend you contact Dale Ream,
Okay.
the township's manager, and he can run with it there. He is the person that would normally be expected to advise the board and contact Wayne County. You and I had the discussion with this a couple of weeks ago with the open space greenways, and where you live, Park Lane, roughly, and Church, again, there is no, and I'm sure you've ridden and driven and tried to find it. Church is very, very, very unsafe because how narrow and the rather comparatively bad condition of the roads. But if the children can make it up to Thoroughfare and go down the gravel road and then connect with the bicycle path that runs along Meridian, that is very safe. And then you get down to either Ferry, which, as has been noted, is Church Part 2. And when you look at going all the way up to Macomb, again, you've got the sidewalks. If you go to Gray's Drive, you have a lot of traffic going over to the school, and unfortunately, typically a lot of people are late. I live at Ferry and Park Lane, and I see what the traffic is like at 7:15 in the morning. And the litmus test I use is would I allow or want our children, when they were school age, to use those routes to bike to school. Love the idea of the exercise. I love the idea of being able to get out and enjoy the good weather. I'm terrified of the idea that you're going to have bicycles, bad roads, distracted drivers in a hurry. And I just, again, we've talked about that. There is no good way to get to the middle school. And even if you were to attempt, and I don't know that the county would entertain the idea, but even if you were attempt to do a partial closure, there's parts of that road that are just terrible. And I don't like to see runners out there when we have the when we have the various runners out there and the charitable programs that allow for the bicycling, and it just doesn't, Rock CF, it doesn't just make any sense. I'm concerned about somebody getting hurt. Love the idea, but I'm actually very, very worried about that. and I think the county would have some issues. But I would start with Dale, see what Mr. Ream says. Tell him we sent you.
The other thing we might consider, and I think this is a great goal to move forward, but one thing maybe, as we talked about, is maybe you can close it for a weekend, and you do a trial based on that, or close it for, Friday through Monday, or something a little bit more extended, but have it over the weekend, so that way you see several people, different types of people be able to utilize the road in that area, and you test it out as opposed to saying we're closing it down for a full month.
We'll close it one
The
way.
reason I was considering a longer time is it seems like all the signage that needs to be put up and the barricades that they put in going the wrong way, it seems like a lot of effort for a shorter time. But
Your thought on the weekend reminds me of Heinz Drive, where they close it on a Saturday from 9 to 3 or whatever like that. At least they used to when I used to inline skate and bike on Heinz. I think it would be a wonderful experience, but then you listen to what Carl says about the chuck holes and unsafe for runners and stuff like that. I'd hate to see a 10-year-old kid on training wheels or something like that, or even younger, hit a pothole and tip over. That would ruin their biking experience, I'm sure.
Let me take that one step further, if I can. I'm sorry. But I had represented a lady who had 3 children, a 10-year-old and twin 7-year-olds, and they were riding one of the mile roads in the western part of the county. The 7-year-old, for a lot of bad reasons, they had bikes that were too big for them. And the sister with the twins hit a pothole alongside the road, fell out into traffic, and was struck and run over by a 17-year-old driver and died. And I am very, very, very cautious about that. The parents made some bad decisions, and the decisions allowed a child who couldn't control the bike to access a road that was not readily conditioned for vehicular and bicycle traffic, and I don't ever want to see that. 7 years old, that's just a tragedy. So I understand what we're trying to do, but I have real grave, no pun intended, but real serious reservations about that. So I'd love to find answers, but at this point, there's some terrible roads out there.
So we got Nicole and Jane both want to have comments. So I know, Nicole, you've been patient over here, so I'll let you go first.
Thank you. So I'm feeling like the point of walk and bike to school day is if the whole community works together so that we can get all those kids safely to school together at least once or twice a year, then we can make it better all the time. It gives everybody a chance to focus on it. So with that in mind, the road closure at any point in the year, just once, just to see it happen, could be a good exercise. Well, if it's already closed for the Rock CF run, is there a way to get BPAC involved to try to merge the purposes of that closed road? So either at the same time during that day, if it wouldn't distract from the run, but I think it would. Or maybe after most of the runners are done, there's a 2-hour period where we say, hey, community, let's all use the road. I don't know, just brainstorming and trying to find a safe way that's already in use. There you go.
That's a great idea. I think in general, all of us are interested in this. We're just trying to figure out the right way and the right combination and the right steps in there. I know, Carl, I understand your hesitation with based on maintenance especially, and only a partial closure. But those are things that we can take into account and try and figure out how to minimize that. Obviously, there's risk in anything we do, anytime we step out of our house, or even if we stay inside of our house. But let's try and minimize it and make it safe and make it enjoyable. So I think in general, yeah, let's see what we can do. Again, brainstorm with Dale, brainstorm with others, and figure out what we can do. Other aspect is, hey, maybe if we don't get this for bike to school day next year, or for walk to school day in the fall, maybe we just reach out to the middle schoolers, maybe talk to student council, or I don't know everything about middle school yet. I will shortly because my daughter will be going to middle school in the fall. But I'm just wondering if we can talk to a subset of middle school students and ask them how would they like to participate in this event. Maybe it's riding to school, or maybe it's like helping out with the younger kids, or maybe it's creating some promotional materials or doing some sort of event at school that day. So I think that there's multiple ways that we can potentially get them involved, and so let's see which ones stick and see if we can keep this going, and then hopefully after that we can get into high school and see how we can get them involved. So Jane, I know you wanted to talk as well.
I like the idea of closing the roads like Hine Drive. What part of East River are you thinking of closing, maybe? Ferry to Shores to...
I'm remembering when we had construction there and they closed it, and I believe it was most of it, wasn't it?
Oh, like from Macomb all the way to Horsemill, maybe?
Yeah.
And if we go to that direction, close one lane. If the lane, what we can do is maybe have a segment of it, so the car can drive by and be able to pass each other. You were kind of talking about make up one way. Make the car go, okay, close one lane for the kids and biking and stuff, and open one lane, one direction only, instead of trying to pass each other.
Yeah.
Depending on the duration of the closure, we have to keep in mind that people do live along this road, and they're going to need to be able to get in and out, especially to get to work, or if there's other activities that they need to do throughout the day. So if there's ways to minimize the impact on them while giving them a benefit as well, I think that's great. But so I think we've got a lot of enthusiasm over here, a lot of ideas. We just got to figure out which ones can we pursue first, and which ones have to have a couple steps before we can implement them. But yeah, Nicole.
Just a quick caution too. So we're pretty hyped about this, but so in Meridian, walk bike to school is really exciting, and all of a sudden in middle school it's not. Before we assume it's just because of the safety, what if it's also because at that age middle schoolers are just done? So I think before we get too hyped, maybe we want to get a little hyped and see how, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's not try too hard and then find out we're doing something that is not logical.
Yeah, that's why I was asking if we get a subset of middle schoolers and ask them, how would you like to be involved with this event? Maybe they're like, I don't want to be involved with it at all. And then, well,
I mean, did they say they park their bike in the garage and they don't ride it to their... in college?
I think the sixth graders could have some interesting answers, because in fifth grade it's so big. In the sixth grade all of a sudden it's not. My daughter's in seventh grade and she couldn't care less, but then again, we're pretty far away and so it's hard to say.
Mm-hmm.
One other consideration, Rebecca, when you talk with Dale, I anticipate that he is going to want you to speak to the fire chief, because we have an average of 2 rescue calls a day, and in having spoken with Duncan recently about this kind of stuff, he indicated very clearly, as an example with Bellevue, Chief Murdoch is concerned about having 2 points of access to any particular place on the island where you can get in and get out, and that kind of a closure would have a very, very significant impact as well. So you're going to want to talk to the chief.
Right. Can emergency vehicles sirening go the wrong way on a one-way?
Oh, they have an ability to do that, but again, it's a matter of safety. If you have people with the earbuds in, not trying to throw cold water on this project, but these are the kinds of considerations you're going to be looking at. And you can have a siren on and you can have earbuds on, and I don't like the result where that goes, but you're going to want to talk to Chief Murdoch as well and try and sell him and the township manager as well.
You know what you just said? I've got a set of bows that if you were sitting right next to me and I had them on, I don't hear a word you're saying. So I can't imagine what a siren would be like.
I don't know.
That gets back to our education campaign.
Yes.
And like we need to let people know that, hey, you're on the roads, you have to stay aware. Safety is your responsibility as well. So with that, I guess I will just add one thing. Is I know some of us are saying that, Rebecca, you need to go talk to Dale. We're here, we're a part of this. So it's not just you.
So if you need help, I'll say this right now. If you need some help, I'll be happy to go with you.
Well, and what do you want your role to be? I'm so glad that you kind of spearhead walking bike to school today without, together. If you weren't doing it, I don't think it would be done. So,
Well, PAT was very helpful, too. They don't want to spearhead it, but they were very involved.
So do you want to be in charge of trying to make middle school a bigger deal? Because if you don't want to be in charge, maybe Dan's volunteering. You know what I mean?
Sometimes it's better with a middle schooler. But no, but I'm serious.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to find out, is it that age group where they say they're parking their bike and they don't want to use it now till, and I use the term off to college, but is that the key? I mean, let's find out why they don't participate.
I don't know about to school. What I think I see of kids biking to Kroger and stuff around, I think I see middle schoolers doing that a lot.
I don't know their age, I'm beyond knowing that, but whenever I'm in Kroger or I'm over at CVS, even Hungry Howie's this last couple of weeks dealing with them, there's kids riding their bikes up there, picking up a small pie, running into CVS or running into Kroger and getting their Starbucks. I mean...
Yeah.
That is absolutely true, and I have a middle schooler and a high schooler and an elementary schooler, and Macomb is where you go, and they do bike.
Yeah, I mean, you see them up and down Macomb Street, so I think there's a thing there, but how do you transfer it to the middle school? Is it peer pressure? Oh, you're riding your bike?
And East River one way wouldn't necessarily be only for school morning and school afternoon. Kids who want to get to Meridian, who can't an easy other way, could use it for that as well.
Like I said, if you need some help, I'll be willing to help you.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm happy to
Help as
spearhead
well.
that.
Much, Rebecca. All right. Next item on the agenda is a bike education grant, some call it grant update. So, as I made mention in the past, Groseal did receive a grant for up to $7,000 in order to purchase bike lights, bracelets, as well as other educational materials to help do a bicycle and pedestrian education campaign. It's been a rocky start, but I think that we're moving forward on this. One thing that we've realized within the last month or so is that we're going to call the campaign Walk and Roll, Walk and Roll Groseal or Walk and Roll GI, and so I did talk with both Dale Ream as well as our finance director Ann Darsniak. And they're on board with this. So as soon as we give them where we want to purchase these materials from and the amounts, they will purchase it and they'll take care of everything on the grant. So it's going to be much less heavy lifting as far as purchasing materials from BPAC side. What we'll need to do is, once those materials come in, distribute them and figure out how to get this campaign going. But I just wanted to let everyone know that that is moving forward, and hopefully we will purchase these materials here within the next week or two, because the grant needs to, we need to spend the funds by June 30th of this year.
The clock is running out on that funding.
So I know, I've been working on that. Jane is, helping me out somewhat. If there's anybody's interested in helping with this campaign, we greatly appreciate it. Questions, comments?
Well, since I wrote the thing, I think I should still be involved.
Yes.
Whatever we need to do, we need to get going, because
Yes, thank you, Dan.
I really want to see this thing work.
Yeah, and I've CC'd you on the email
Yeah,
as well.
I haven't had a chance to see my email today.
Cool. Any other questions, comments? Okay, hearing none, move on to the bicycling skills course. So we were super excited about this opportunity where we were going to have a American League of Bicyclists certified instructor come in and teach people about how to successfully, ride on the road, and, other advanced skills involved cycling, so that way you can take your cycling skills to the next level. Again, because oftentimes there's not a bike path where you want to get to. So when you get to Macomb Street, what do? Do you ride on the road? Do you go on the sidewalks? And depending on what you choose in that situation, you might be behaving differently on your bicycle in order to stay safe. For example, if you're on the sidewalks, you're sort of an invited guest, and so you should be watching out for pedestrians and making sure that they have the right of way, and you should be traveling at slow speeds and be expecting to stop at every single driveway, because the drivers most likely don't see you. Same thing, in the road, you have to figure out, well, you need to ride with traffic, and how do you manage driveways, and how do you manage different intersections. So we were very excited about this course. It did have some decent registration, but unfortunately the instructor that we'd worked with on the program did get laid off from his job, and fortunately, he did find another job, but it is on the other side of the state. And so as of today, he's moving over to Traverse City. So, he was not able to, teach the class. And despite our, best efforts to secure a replacement instructor, we were not able to do so. We had a couple leads, but they did fall through. So rather than water down the course, because I should say that, since it was marketed so much on the cycling skills and advanced nature and riding on the road, we felt that it was very important to make sure we had a league certified instructor, or some sort of instructor that has accreditation, that has the insurance, that has done these things before. I'm sure there's some of us on this commission or other people on the island that are excited about this. They could potentially teach some pointers and stuff, but none of us have those like advanced skills or accreditations that this instructor did have. So rather than risk children's safety in some aspect, or other people's safety by not having a league certified instructor, or watering down the course and just staying on the paths, we thought the best course of action would be to cancel the course for now, but it's more of a postponement. We're hoping that we'll be able to find a new instructor and offer the course in the future. We just felt that it was better to cancel it outright, so that way people don't have an expectation that it's going to be happening within the next month or so, and then they get frustrated because they paid for something and they're not going to be, they don't have a tangible product or service in hand. So, we canceled it for now, but we're hoping that we'll be able to offer it more in the future.
Before we shut it completely down, Brian, I got your emails about a week ago telling me that Stephen was moving on. Maybe it was more than a week. And it came to my attention today that there's a group at REI that offers training and stuff like that, and possibly maybe we can somehow get connected to one of them. I believe they have one on Haggerty between 6 and 7 Mile Road. It's just a thought. Mm-hmm. I was chit-chatting with people today, and it was brought to my attention. I thought I'd bring it up at this meeting before we say, I think it's a great idea to get kids involved with the skills, because you see them, and again, I hate to say Macomb Street, you see them running past Kroger, not looking as people are pulling out, and I think this is too important to just let it go. So whether or not you can get a hold of REI, or you want me to give them a call, and we can do something like that. I mean,
yeah, we can reach out to them. If you want to take the first step, and if you get a lead,
probably won't be to the beginning of the week. Mm-hmm. But if you want me to, I'll get a hold of the one out in Northville. I believe it's Northville, since it's on the west side of Haggerty.
Yeah.
I just heard that they offer. In fact, what's really neat is if you have a child, and they have training wheels, you bring them into their facility, and they guarantee by the time they leave that night, they will not be riding with training wheels. So to me, this is, if they can do that, what else can they do? Could they come out here and provide a course for our residents?
That's a great option to pursue. And just to let everyone know, we weren't canceling it. As far as
I should postpone, this is what I should have said. I'm sorry.
So Jane and I did meet with Stephen on Monday, And so we're talking about our next steps because Stephen sits on the League of Michigan Bicyclists, or LMB. And one of his goals was to increase education and create this network of, association of, league certified instructors or just certified instructors of different calibers. So, for example, the League of American Bicyclists has their training. There's another training called Cycling Savvy. I'm sure that there's others out there that, it doesn't matter like which brand of safety skills that you're learning. The point is to create this association, and that way we could create this network. So that way communities like Grozeal or others could contact someone and figure out what are our resources available to us. So we are looking at doing this involve partnership with the League of Michigan Bicyclists, pursuing it with potentially with the Governor's Traffic Safety Advisory Commission up in Lansing. I sit on the Pedestrian Bicycle Safety Action Team. So we see hey, is there some sort of partnership for statewide that way, as well as through SEMCOG, my employer, Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, seeing if this is something that could be a part of implementation of our bicycle pedestrian travel plan, and see, can we potentially offer training for trainers, at our location in downtown Detroit, in order to, create this network and help facilitate it at least within Southeast Michigan. So, we're looking to grow it, but I really do like your idea of, reaching out to REI or, any of the other, bike shops to see if there's somebody that is certified that, maybe we can offer the course sooner rather than later. And
Let me look into it.
Rebecca, I know you had comments, so feel free to come on up.
When I was talking to friends about the course, someone said, why isn't this taught in gym class in middle school? Which seemed to me a brilliant idea. Everyone has to take gym for one semester in 6th grade. We all live in this town, and it would be awesome to have our students know when you are on a path and you're going by a driveway, a car could be swinging into you, and you need to be aware of that. Or like with any of the general information that really isn't obvious. And so that was just an idea. I thought it was an awesome idea, and I didn't know. I guess the first thing would be to talk to the middle school gym teacher, perhaps. Yes.
Oh, thanks. So I was a teacher from 97 until 2013, and I sub in all the winter times, and I have some teacher friends. So from that perspective, the gym teacher could be someone you could talk to for some ideas, but definitely would start with someone more like Mr. Whitehouse. The way the politics are of education right now, there's a common core that they're trying to make as stable as they can across the whole nation. For plus or minus, there's some controversy. And the other thing is, sometimes there are assemblies. So an assembly is sort of a school-wide thing that Mr. Whitehouse would have a lot of control over, and I don't know how much the individual teacher has control over the gym class. So definitely the gym teacher would know more about how much control they have over it, but there could be other options outside of the class that might be easier to go with, or even after school program. I don't know what else they can do, but I think Mr. Whitehouse would have a better whole perspective on how to get that message to the kiddos.
I like both of your ideas, and that's some of the things I've thought about in the past, but it's like baby steps in getting there. So I'm glad that there's others thinking about that, and that would be a great avenue to pursue. Again, if we do have interest from the schools, wanting to be respectful of their time and with the Common Core and such. But let's check that out. All right. Next item on the agenda is Glow Roll. So Jane?
Okay. Last month I posted on Grocery Now looking for a new leader since my schedule is so busy and I'm afraid to. Okay, let's go. Oh, I have to work, so I've decided to step back. But I thought it was my responsibility with his request is to find a replacement. So I found a replacement, and it's already posted on Grocery Now that we're going to have her first Glow Roll June 6th. 7:30 to 9, and meet at Royal's Tasty Freeze. So we can meet at Tasty Freeze 7:30 Thursday, June 6th for the first glow roll of the year.
Who is the lady who's taking over?
Tina Perry.
Okay.
And when I posted the notes that I need to step back, she texted me within 10-15 minutes, and we were communicating that night. So I followed up last night with her, and she said, oh, yeah. So she's very anxious to get back going, and she just moved to the island not too long ago, and she wants to learn more about grocery her way. Oh, wow, look, wow. So I'm going to help her. If I'm not working that night, I'm going to be there to help her.
Where are they going to meet at again? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Tasty Freeze.
Tasty Freeze.
I didn't hear that.
It's next to the
I
Island Woods
know where it's
Apartments.
at. That's your competitor. I didn't want to mention it.
We're all just neighbors.
Yeah. It was quite funny.
All right. Anything else on that, Jay? Great. Thank you for that report.
Thank you.
Thank you for making that
Before we
transition
leave.
because Glow Roll is a great program that I love to tout to other communities. When I work with them in my day job as well as just to tell other people about. So I'm hoping that we can keep that going and keep that as one of the great things that makes Grow Zeal.
Is there any possible way we could have some of these bike lights available by then? That would be great for those people that don't show up without a light. I mean, it'd be a great promotion for us.
That'd be great.
We'll see about.
Can we get with the township to see if they could expedite maybe partial of the orders, or if not the whole thing?
We'll check it out. But the
Well,
three
I'm
of us
sure-
should figure out how many we're ordering from where real quick.
Yep.
So I think we're going to have more than one glow roll this summer. So if we miss the deadline for June 6th, we can do it again later on in the summer.
So just a refresher, let everybody know. We're planning on passing them out at glow rolls to people that needed them. Working with the police department, so that way the police department had them on hand in case they see people out riding at night that don't have a bike light, as well as be able to pass them out at certain events. So we're hoping that we can roll it out here over the spring in the summer, like where people are starting to bicycle, but hopefully we'll be able to hit the ground running, especially for the fall when we're starting to lose daylight and people are it's still warm and people are going to be out there enjoying their bicycle or jogging along the paths at night, after work. So there'll be plenty of events still to be able to pass these out at.
And I thought I can leave them on my bike when I go biking. These are the light.
Exactly. Thank you, Jane.
So second to last item on the agenda is the Township Board Liaison Report. Carl, is there anything that you would like to mention?
Yes, thank you, Brian. One of the great privileges I have is occasionally someone on the township board saying, hey, there's something coming up that looks like it might be part of what you do. Last week, Supervisor Loftus contacted me and said, the John Dingle Park is having a bicycle pedestrian path ribbon cutting. Can you go and stand in for me? I had occasion to talk with Dan Jaster that morning and asked him if he would be interested in coming, and we went up there and watched the program. It was filled with people from Friends of the Detroit River, all of the wildlife organizations, as well as Congressperson Dingle. She came and spoke, and it was a very good experience learning about the connections to the Iron Bell Trail, all of the other linked greenways, and the linkage that you've been talking about, Brian. And it was refreshing to see something different going on other than driving down Jefferson or Biddle and recognizing this is yet another link that's connecting Belle Isle to ultimately the rest of downriver. Even as far as Monroe, they're looking at Gateway City or Gateway entrances in Flat Rock, as well as Detroit, and it was just really a different view. You're looking at the backdrop of the Detroit River, seeing the freighters go by, all of the fisher persons out there, and it was refreshing to think about where the river was 50 years ago, 60 years ago, the downriver communities were, and now we are starting to see some people coming together for a very good experience. So we were able to do that, and that was refreshing. I reported to the township that the Bike to School Day was an absolute success. When I drove by Meridian on the way to my office, I'm looking at probably 75, 80, maybe even 90 bicycles that were set alongside the sidewalk at the school. The bike rack was completely filled and extended. It was a success in part because it was done so safely, and I wanted to take the time to thank everybody that organized it, that volunteered for it, as well as for the police department helping to make it a safe event. And last thing was, I reported on the community meeting that we had regarding the Parkway connection from Meridian to the Wayne County Bridge. And that was, again, a very good, solid experience. I thought Rob Schaefer's idea about working with something on Bellevue, given the cost of the alternative projects and safety issues, was something that was just, it validated the idea of community involvement. And his idea was good, and we're taking that up the chain. And that concludes my report.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl.
Under the chair's report, I'll mention, first of all, while Ginny could not be here tonight, she did want to potentially discuss Walk the Path. So that's an event that we've done every year in the past for, thinking maybe 5 years, if not more now. Trustee Posiak and Trustee Malvesto, they've done it in the past, and that was their sort of idea that they came up with, where they're doing the event on the same day as the island-wide garage sale, as well as, it turns out, the Wayne State Barradour, which is a bike ride that goes from Midtown Detroit, Wayne State, and has several different routes, but one of them comes all the way over here to Groseal, does a loop around the island, and stops over at Macomb Street, at the Macomb Street Commons for a pit stop, and then they make their way back to the city of Detroit. So between those different events in the past, we've been at the Macomb Street Commons. We have hot dogs, we have drinks, as well as we generally hire some entertainment, and so it makes for an enjoyable pit stop for the Barradours, as well as people coming to the island for island-wide garage sale, as well as, of course, people using the paths. And that's what it was about, celebrating the paths that we do have on the island. So I'm not saying that we need to do it, but Ginny was asking about it, and she did offer to have her electric grill and grill up some hot dogs again this year. She says she already has the supplies available. So if it is something that we're interested in doing, then we should probably think about that for future meetings or study sessions.
When we talked about it after last August event, we kind of had mixed feelings about whether or not we wanted to be in conjunction with the garage sale and Wayne State's biking thing. I think we need, as a committee, have a full committee and discuss it further. It was a nice event, but are we connecting ourselves to the community here, or are we connecting ourselves to Wayne State, or what are we trying to accomplish here? So I think we need to have some further discussion on that issue.
I agree. I mean, just because we've done something in the past
doesn't mean it works.
Yep. So again, don't want to talk about it too much now, but I just wanted to put that out there, get people thinking about it, and we can include it for a future meeting. Secondly, I want to let people know that coming up this week, through SEMCOG and MDOT, there is and as well as City of Detroit and City of Ferndale, there are 4 separate workshops going on called Training Wheels. From the MDOT perspective, if you're familiar with it, that's been done in Wyandotte and Detroit and Trenton in the past, as well as other places across southeast Michigan. But over the past couple of years, it's also been branded, since it's a partnership with SEMCOG, as a SEMCOG University, and we call it something that's a little bit easier for people to understand, is designing bicycle-friendly roadways, because the concept of the class is to get elected officials, chief staffs, engineers, planners, basically decision makers on bicycles, riding around on roads to experience what it's like riding on different types of facilities. Those could be bike lanes, those could be wide paved shoulders, those could be sidewalks, but the point is to get people to experience what it's like, and so that way they understand, why there's a need for bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, and how do you, accommodate that within road right-of-ways that many times are constrained. So those workshops are free. If there's anybody's interested in attending them, let me know. We always have room for more people. Two of them are in the city of Detroit at SEMCOG offices on Monday and Thursday. And on Tuesday and Wednesday, they are in the city of Ferndale at Ferndale City Hall. Get breakfast, get lunch, get a bike ride, get lots of training on bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. So, again, let me know if you're interested in those.
Right.
Yes.
You're talking about the 4 days a week. Are you talking about each one is only the span of one day and there are 4 choices?
Correct.
I'm interested in knowing the choices.
Okay,
Don't
I
sign
will
me up
send
yet,
you.
but I'm curious.
Forward that on to me, too. I'm not sure of my schedule later in the week.
I'll just send it to the rest of the whole group. The last item I do want to talk about is SEMCOG's Walk, Bike, Drive Safe campaign. This is a region-wide effort that started last year in full force. Before that, it was teased. But the concept is doing a bicycle and pedestrian education campaign. And this is modeled off of what happened in Grand Rapids over the past couple of years, where they did something called Driving Change. And it was specifically centered on the exchange between bicyclists and motor vehicles, and based on wanting to be more bicycle and pedestrian friendly, on specific bicycle and pedestrian safety issues and crashes, as well as having a lot of different new laws in place in regards to bicycling, as well as new infrastructure. They took a comprehensive approach in doing a multimedia campaign in addition to targeted enforcement and codifying and standardizing different rules. And so they did multimedia in regards to TV spots, radio, as well as social media and some billboards. So, last year SEMCOG did a campaign, and it was, I should mention that from the Grand Rapids model, that it was done as a blitz, which is to say that it's for a short duration but very intense. So they do 2-week periods, so that way, hopefully within that 2-week period, you're exposed to the message multiple times, as opposed to just having a single message that might be, put out multiple times over an expanded 6 months or a year, and you may have seen it once or twice. The concept is if you hit people intensely with it within a short period of time, they're more likely to remember it. So we've taken that model at SEMCOG, and we did a blitz in October. And we had some videos. We had some billboards. Some of them are still up, actually, this year. So I know that if you go on I-75 south towards Monroe, there's one specifically about distracted driving. But pretty much all the freeways, there was billboards, as well as on some of the major roadways, there was bus ads, as well as gas station TV. So this time around, we did the same thing. We have a little more budget. We have a little more videos. So these should be playing on GITV currently, but just in case people have not seen them, I wanted to share our 4 videos that we have, as well as we've been sharing on social media. So the first one is specifically about intersection safety, and it's from a driver's perspective.
60% of bicycle and pedestrian crashes occur at intersections. Look, wait, turn. Wait for people walking and biking before you turn. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org.
Next one is specifically about using a light when riding at night.
65% of bicyclist deaths happen in the dark. Use a bike light when riding and watch for bikes when driving at night. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org.
I think that's one reason why glow roll is so important, at least in my heart, is that it gets the point across about safety at night. It's more than just the fun experience. Next one is specifically about driveways.
Oh. 94% of crashes are due to human error. Avoid distractions. Slow down, look. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org.
I should mention that all of the actors on here are not paid. They are SEMCOG employees.
I was going to say.
So,
where's your truck, Brian?
You'll see it here shortly. So this is one of the new ones that we did this year. When I was coordinating stuff with Jane and others, I was out actually shooting this one in Oakland County. So this is based on the safe passing law.
When you're driving and you approach a person riding a bike, leave at least 3 feet when passing. If you can't pass safely, slow down and wait until you have time and space to pass. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org.
The last one here is specifically about pedestrian safety. And so is a refinement of the video that we did last time, where the message was to try and cross at a crosswalk wherever possible. But one of the things in regards to Southeast Michigan is it's pretty big and diverse, and there's not always a sanctioned crosswalk available. So, what do you do in those situations where you don't have a crosswalk or you don't have a sidewalk, but you do need to, get somewhere along the road? So we refined this video a little bit to center more on that, as opposed to what some people consider to be more
Communities throughout Southeast Michigan are working to make it easier for people to walk safely. However, there are places without sidewalks or crosswalks. If you're driving, keep an eye out for people on foot. Walk facing traffic, as far from the center of the roadway as possible. Yield to oncoming automotive or bicycle traffic before entering the roadway. Use the traffic signal as a cue to cross. Make sure all lanes are clear and watch for turning vehicles before crossing. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org.
So I encourage everyone to share these videos as much as possible. I want to thank Ted, our communications director, for putting these on GITV, and I thank anyone that has shared them thus far. If you have any ideas on how to utilize these more as far as our specific bicycle and pedestrian education campaign, or if you think that we could show some of these to our high school or middle school students and see if they're interested in creating videos, or anyone else is interested in creating videos that are more local, in particular needs for Islanders, that would be great, and we could include that as part of this larger campaign. So with that, is there any questions, comments about the Bike Ped Education Campaign, Walk, Bike, Drive Safe?
I have a question, not sure it's related. As I understand Michigan state law, you aren't required to stop for a pedestrian waiting to cross at a crosswalk. You're just required not to hit them if they're in the crosswalk. Is that correct?
So there is no actual, this is like a very nuanced thing, and so it confuses a lot of people, including myself at times. So, if it sounds confusing, I apologize for that. It's because it is. But essentially, there is no specific state law saying that you do need to, stop for a pedestrian in a crosswalk. What there is the Michigan Vehicle Code, which communities can adopt. And majority of communities do adopt those, and I believe that Groseal has done so as well. So while it's not technically state law, it is something that you're supposed to do when there is a marked crosswalk, especially if you do have pedestrian signals and they're crossing in a protected phase. Outside of a marked crosswalk, that's where pedestrians do not have the right of way.
So Groseal has adopted the Michigan, was it motorist? Vehicle code, and that says stop if someone's waiting in a marked crosswalk, correct? Or
yeah,
no?
I believe so. I can double check on
It says
the
to
nuances.
yield.
Yep.
It just says to yield if they're in the pathway.
If they're in a marked crosswalk, you yield.
So if someone is waiting on the sidewalk, not stepped into the road yet, by law, drivers passing by do not need to stop for them.
That's my recollection,
Yeah.
yes.
So again, depending on the community that you're in, that can differ. So for example, in Ann Arbor, they have such a law that you're saying it's like, hey, once you get down to the ramp and you're about to enter the street, the vehicles are supposed to be yielding to the pedestrians in those cases.
And Traverse City, I think, as well.
Yes, Traverse City has that also. Also in Dearborn, at U of M Dearborn, they have a marked crosswalk with a button which signals for all traffic to stop for the pedestrian in the crosswalk.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, signals are a different story.
Yep.
Obviously, those are traffic control devices, and you need to obey them. The trouble is the location that you're mentioning. It has a hawk signal, which is a technical jargony word for saying it's a non-traditional signal. So it's a little confusing as far as learning how to actually obey the rules for that. So essentially, a pedestrian hits that signal, which is dark beforehand, and then it will start to do. I think it will go to amber, which is a yellow signal. So you're supposed to slow down, and then it'll have a full stop. But then afterwards, it has two red lights that alternate, almost like a railroad crossing. And so at that point, after the pedestrian has left the crosswalk, a vehicle is allowed to proceed through that area.
Then it turns dark.
Yeah, so I'm not judging the hawk signal at all. All I'm saying is that that's something new, and it's harder for both vehicles and people, pedestrians and bicyclists, to know what to do in that specific situation. That being said, those can be used in certain instances where you might not be able to justify a full traffic signal otherwise.
Your comments on Traverse City, I believe in my travels through there, they do state that when they're in a crosswalk or attempting to cross, you must stop for them.
I grew up in Massachusetts, and they've done a good job with making everyone stop, and they do typically, if you don't wait there too long before traffic will stop for you at a crosswalk. And I had just assumed that's the way most states were until I started looking into it and realized that it's not that way in Michigan, because I was surprised how long I had to wait to cross to Meridian School. And no one has ever stopped for me there crossing. But then I realized it isn't.
Yeah.
It isn't required.
So, that is something that at a state level we're looking at, how to be more comprehensive on that, because it's hard for drivers and folks to know when you go from one community to another, what rules apply. For example, like I said, in Ann Arbor, hey, as soon as the pedestrian gets on the ramp, going down into the street, you're supposed to yield for them. In some places, you need to stop completely, and you need to wait until they're completely out of the road. In other situations, you wait until the pedestrian has cleared your direction of traffic, and then you can go. So, I mean, there's a lot of confusion because there's a lot of different rules out there. But the hope is that over the next several years, if not sooner, there'll be more standardization put in place. Similarly, since we're talking about different rules, statewide, there's a 3-foot passing rule, but if you're in Ann Arbor, if you're in Grand Rapids, if you're in Kalamazoo, several other communities across Michigan, it's a 5-foot safe passing law. And just to let folks know, there is equipment out there that can actually measure the actual distance that drivers are giving between the bicyclist and the vehicle, and you're supposed to take into account your side view mirror as well in that situation. And again, no one's going out there trying to just pull people over and give people tickets just for the sake of making money or anything like that. It's about the education aspect. But there are communities that have officers in plain clothes on plain bikes, and they have these devices attached to their bicycles, and they can measure your speed as well as measure the distance that you are passing a bicyclist at. And up the road or around the corner, there's another trooper or another police officer in an actual car that will pull you over if you do not give people the safe passing. So just to let folks know out there, it's not only just a good law and it feels good. There's actually going to be some enforcement behind it. So with that, is there any other questions, comments, things that we need to bring up before bringing this meeting to a close?
Nothing.
Nothing further.
Nope.
Cool. Jane? Great. Hearing none, I make a motion for adjournment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great. Call this meeting closed at 9:19 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Walk, bike, drive safe.